What's up, everybody? A new edition here on Locked On Cougars, but it's going to be a little bit of a different idea. And the idea of this is it's a supplementary podcast, maybe not necessarily every day, but almost every day, talking about maybe some of the other topics with regards to the Big 12 beyond BYU that you as Cougar fans probably need to know about. And we're going to call it, at least the idea right now, is to call it the Crossroads of the 12. And the idea I had for it was, this comes back almost a year at least, when I was kind of talking about with some friends about podcast ideas covering college football, and at that time BYU had officially received an invite to the Big 12 conference. The Pac-12 obviously had 12 teams, and Mountain West had 12 football programs, and obviously Salt Lake City is known as the Crossroads of the West. For those of you who may be unaware, it's one of the nicknames for Utah's capital city. I said, you know what, let's kind of meld all that into one and use it as a podcast idea. I sat on it, and today is the day we talk about that. And today on the podcast, we're going to talk about a situation involving the Pac-12. This morning, George Kliavkoff sat down with the Pac-12 chancellors and administrators, I should say Pac-9, at least for the time being. They still officially are the Pac-12, but they have 9-member schools who are looking like they're going to remain in the conference if everything goes according to plan. They met with George Kliavkoff, and according to reports, he put forth a plan that essentially is streaming almost exclusive, streaming with Apple TV. Think of this as Pac-12 being the first college football conference to do what Major League Soccer did and going all in on streaming. Now, there is some caveats in there, apparently, according to the reports, that there could be some games sold to ESPN and other networks with regards to getting them on linear TV, but a streaming-heavy deal. Pete Thamel from ESPN, one of the foremost insiders when it comes to college football, says the primary deal presented to the Pac-12 executives and ADs today was a primarily Apple streaming deal. The deal would have incentivized tiers, which would give it strong upside, if certain subscription numbers are met. Now, I also did add in that no decisions on the deal or any schools pondering other options are expected immediately. And he did say in his TV hit on ESPN and SportsCenter, saying that the overall money in this deal would start out lower than the $31.7 million that the Big 12 is going to get beginning in 2025, which was thought to be the benchmark for Pac-12 teams to determine what their future was going to be. Now, is this going to keep people in the loop? Is this going to keep people, speaking of Arizona and some of these other schools in the Pac-12 who have been rumored to be looking at their options, is it going to incentivize them to stick around? No idea. Frankly, if I had any intel on that, I'd be the first to give it to you guys. But I think that the situation you've got to weigh, if you're Arizona, Arizona State, Utah, any other of the 9 schools that are currently in the Pac-12, you've got to weigh how much does being on linear TV, and what I mean by linear TV is either cable, speaking of ESPN, ESPN2, FS1, FS2, or over the air, ABC and Fox. Most notably, those would be the networks that BYU and the rest of the Big 12 are playing on, along with a streaming component with ESPN Plus. That's what you have to weigh, is if you're going to go, essentially, if you're pushing all your chips in, working with Apple TV and putting all your games behind that paywall, it's got to be incentivized enough that you feel like, okay, it may take lower money here at first, but how quickly can we ramp up and start making the money that we feel like we deserve? That there are so many questions to be answered on that front. Now, for comparison's purpose, according to what I was looking up online, Apple TV Plus, which is the TV service that this would be on. So Apple TV Plus is a TV streaming service that you subscribe to. 25 million subscribers are thought to have subscribed to Apple TV Plus. That's as of 2022. I don't know that necessarily how much the MLS package has maybe added to that. According to Andrew Marchand of the New York Post, who covers TV sports and just TV overall, he says that 800,000 subscribers roughly have subscribed to MLS Season Pass. They pay approximately $100 a year if you don't already subscribe to Apple TV Plus, or if you're an Apple TV Plus subscriber, it's $80. But they have a lot of other deals. I know that Major League season ticket holders for every single team, all 29 franchises, they get a free subscription. T-Mobile has been giving out free subscriptions. They said that 25 million subscribers to Apple TV Plus, plus another 50 million approximately who have either access to Apple TV Plus via promotions. Many of you probably bought an iPhone or bought an Apple product that came with a free year of Apple TV Plus. Well, that's what they're talking about there. Now, for those of you out there wondering how it compares with ESPN Plus, BYU's second home game this season is going to be, for example, on the Big 12 now on ESPN Plus, a streaming-only platform. It's ESPN's version of Apple TV Plus. They have 25.3 million subscribers of their own as of March this year, the first quarter of 2023. So they already have more paying subscribers than what Apple supposedly had last year. Now, like I said, that number probably has gone up just a touch for Apple, but they're right in the same ballpark. But the added thing that the Big 12 will have is the fact that anybody with a cable subscription or a rabbit ears on their TV, depending on where the game is being broadcast, will be able to find that game and watch it. To do what the Pac-12 is planning on doing, you've got to have a streaming platform, a streaming service, whether it's an Amazon Fire Stick, a Roku player, Apple TV device. You have to have that. And the other thing is there's not an easy way to scroll between games when you're on different streaming services. Gone are the days in many ways of working your TV remote and going back, forward, and jumping between games using that back button on your remote. That's the tough part of what the Pac-12 has to figure out here. So I've got to be honest. I don't like the deal for the Pac-12. I think it would be a thing that they need to get as much linear coverage as they can, even if it comes at a discounted rate, because the Big 12 jumped them in line, signed that $31.7 million a year deal, and is now essentially assigned themselves to where they will be much more accessible than the Pac-12 is. Any other conference, the ACC included, and you can probably go down the list to some of the G5 conferences out there, will be more readily accessible, it feels like to me, than what the Pac-12 is looking at with regards to going essentially all in with Apple. Like I said, it's not completely all in with Apple, but the situation you will find, I feel like, at least early on, is getting fans to say, okay, I'm willing to fork over how much money? Do I need to fork over $100 a year? Is it monthly? Is it $15-$20 a month? Is it $200? What's the price point that the Pac-12 and Apple come to that is going to help them get to the point that they need? The other thing about this is the MLS deal has a $250 million base, and apparently, based on subscriber numbers, it has incentivized clauses in it similar to what the Pac-12 is being described as it would have with Apple. But the problem is the traction is going to take some time to get going. And how many of the lay college football fans out there, you in the Big 12, how many of you are going to be willing, you know what? I want to watch Pac-12 games so badly, I'm willing to pay $15, $20, $25 a month on top of everything else. For example, I cut the cord, folks. I have YouTube TV. I've got the Disney Plus bundle that has ESPN Plus in it. I'm all in on streaming. So in a way, I'm the target demographic of what the Pac-12 and Apple are looking at. But the other issue is, I'm not the normal person. I work in sports media. I work in a sports media market that is a member of the Pac-12. I will likely have access to that streaming platform, but I want you guys to weigh in on this. Comment below, send us a tweet, Locked On Cougars, Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, or are you calling it a Zeet now with the X platform? Let me know what you think. I'm at Jacob C. Hatch. You can see here if you're watching this on YouTube, my Twitter handle. I want your thoughts on this. Would you be willing, as a lay college football fan, I'm guessing that you're not necessarily a Pac-12 fan per se, like you have a school in the Pac-12 that you root ardently for, but if you do, I can understand that. But if you are just kind of the Joe Blow every man out there, every woman out there who is wanting to just watch college football, are you going to be willing to fork over extra money simply to watch Pac-12 games? That's the question. And I think that's going to be the interesting part, because the nice part about what the Big 12's got going for it, it has a streaming component. It's working heavily with ESPN Plus. I've said it to BYU fans and any of you who are Big 12 fans. If you don't have ESPN Plus right now, you better get on it, because if you plan on watching volleyball, track and field, golf, if you want to watch this other sports, the Olympic sports, basketball in particular, by the way, men's and women's basketball in the Big 12, there will be a number of games that are on linear TV networks. There's a number of games also that are going to be streaming only via ESPN Plus. You need to get on it if you want to watch all of the games, especially if you're a BYU fan. I would imagine most of you watching this are BYU fans. But you've got to get in on that, because that is where I think the traction lies. The Big 12 was smart enough to get the linear TV package, which is going to pay the majority of the bills, as it were, with that $31.7 million. But as a streaming component that will ramp up over time, and who knows, by the time that comes back up to market in 2031, reportedly, could streaming be the way of the future? And at that point, do you push more towards the streaming aspect where that pays out more versus what the linear is? We'll see. Very interesting times ahead for the Pac-12. I don't like the way this is being reported in terms of what it would do to the Pac-12, but hey, you as a Big 12 fan, got to be feeling pretty good about yourself. And like I said, I'd love to, nothing more than have you guys' feedback on this. Let me know what you like about, if you like this kind of new format. It's kind of a shorter form podcast, one kind of hot take or two, and then we're done. That's just a kind of a supplement to what we have on the other podcast. Coming up on tomorrow's show, our main show, going to be full reaction to day one of BYU training camp. I'm actually just recording this minutes before I head down to Provo. So look forward to hearing your guys' feedback on this. And obviously, thank you for joining us on this special edition of Locked On Cougars, covering all things Big 12 and Pac-12 right here on the Locked On Podcast Network.